several different chord types right now, and we'll begin with C major, okay? And I just have it in a different inversion right now. But if you want, if it's more comfortable, we can stay in a major or root position rather. Still maintaining that low octave, okay? And what we'll do is, for just ease sake, we'll do just the one finger here. And then we'll take this C major, all right, and we'll start to break it down, and we'll sort of transform this chord into different chord types. So what we do is, this is considered a major triad because it has 3 notes all put together. And now there's another version of the chord called a minor. So what we're doing is we're essentially taking the 3rd note in the scale and we're going to flat it, or we're going to make it move a half step down, okay, in the left direction of the keyboard. And that's going to cause this sound to change. This third tone in that scale, okay, it's going to be a little off pitch now, and it's going to create this chord and make it a minor. Okay, so what I've always learned is, simplistically, you know, majors are bright and happy and minors are kind of sad, a little sad sounding, if you will. So there is a major, and that is C minor. Okay, one more time. C major, 1, 3, 5, and now C minor, 1 flat third, 5. Okay, we can even do it in time, for example. Major, 1, 3, 5, 1 flat third, 5. Okay, so with that, as we change this chord and we look at the different versions, always remember in your practice time, as you perhaps you have a keyboard that has rhythm, and you do want to practice things to different beats and such, remember those inversions. Okay, so any version that we do in a root position is also done in its inverted position. So that minor is also right here. Okay, root first, second, and that's how you want to practice them. Okay, so C major, C minor, and now what we'll do is we'll look at a C2. And again, I'm throwing out some numbers here. You know, it might be a little bit clumsy at first, but the more you look at a chord book, it's your chord dictionary. It's, you know, that's going to be like your chord Bible. You know, any time that you have a lead sheet or a grand staff that it's asking you to play music, more specifically, it's asking for chord types, you're going to see a series of letters and numbers. So don't let that scare you. So we have C major, C minor, and now I want to look at a C2. And the reason it's a 2, it's because I'm utilizing the 2nd note in the scale. So now it's no longer a 1, 3, and a 5. You with me? It is now a 1, 2, and a 5. It's as simple as that. So I still have 3 notes, but I have 3 different notes sequentially. Okay? And that same rule applies when it comes to the inversions, okay? And also when you're arpeggiating in your practice, when you're playing it in time. So we have major, minor, now a 2. Okay, so we have the 2nd note in the C major scale. 1, 2. So now it is a 1, a 2, and a 5. Okay, the 5 didn't change, the 1 didn't change. So you'll see how we're moving around here. All right, so major, minor, and a 2. We're kind of going down in half steps right now. So keeping that bass note, That's a C2. All right, the next chord I want to look at is called a C7. And it's a 7 chord because when you look at the C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what you do is take the 7th note in the scale and you flat it. So with that, we're looking at the 7 chord, and I have C major, and I'll stick to my root position here for you. And this is C major. Now I want to make it a 7. So basically I could do two things. I could look at the 7th note in the scale and flat it, or I could just say go down a whole step from the root. Okay, so it's as simple as that. So C major, I go down a whole step or 2 half steps, and that's a 7 chord. Okay? Okay? C major, C7. All right? Remember that inversion right there. There's your 7. All right? So, pretty easy. C major, minor, 2, and now a 7 chord. All right? It may remind you and have some, blues tone to it, and you'll discover that blues does use, among others, a lot of 7 chords in their music. So, all right? So you have major, minor, 2, and now a 7. All right? C major 7. All right, moving on. I want to look at two other chords, and the next one is it's a really cool chord, and how I use it often is we're going to be changing the bass note on this one. So, don't get nervous, but it does utilize a different bass note in terms of how I'm going to apply it here. So we just seen our 7 chord, and now with the use of the scale, once again, I'm always going back to that major scale, and I'm looking numerically to see what note, okay, sequentially I have to put into my triad, or my pattern of notes is asking for a specific note to allow the chord to be changed into what my music is asking for. So I have C again on the root, and now I'm going to use a C6, and I do that by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and my 6th note is an A. So C major on the right hand, and I'm looking to incorporate the A. Alright, so now I have a 1, 3, 5, and also a 6. So in the root position, I would do it right here. 1, 3, 5, and a 6. Okay, so over the root, and that's what it would sound like. But my application here, I actually want you to look at the scale below on the bass notes and go 1, 2, 3, go to the 4th note, okay, and now with the C holding that A, that 6th note, I want you to do the C6 over, okay, and over just means that it's utilizing a different bass note on the left hand, so it's C6 over F, okay. All right, and I believe I mentioned that you can incorporate the 5 in your bass notes, so, and it has a way of kind of fattening things up, a nice thick chord there. So, all right, so you have the F, C, F, and C, E, G, and an A, okay? Or you have the 4, the 1, the 4, and you have the 1, 3, 5, and 6. Okay, so alphabetically, and numerically. You both you have that interpretation. Okay, so that is C6. The final chord that I want to look at here is a sustained chord, or an SUS for short. It's a sus. And what I'm doing is I'm basically taking the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth note in the C major scale, and just to be overly redundant, once again, that same rule applies to any key that you're in. Okay, so it's always the fourth note of the major scale of the key you're in. So that saves us a little time here and having to show you, all 12 chords. It actually, that concept repeats itself. So that's the cool thing about music. All right, so what we're doing is we're taking the C, and it's not 1, 3, 5. Now it's 1, 4, 5. So 1, 4, 5. Okay, and this is a good time to utilize the pedal, because you can toggle that with C major and sustain, and C major and back and forth, so you can go. Alright, we'll do that in time for our example. So what we could do is we'll go back through and all of our notes, and we will practice them in time, and then we will close out the session and move on in time. Okay, C minor, C2, now C7, C major, C minor, C2, and that was the E before, so. Okay, now the last two, to use that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're putting in that A. Okay, so we've got, but this time we do it over the 4. Back to the root. C6 over the 4th. And I'm using the pedal now because it's basically going to a different chord. And you're changing the root in that sense right now. Okay, you're no longer keeping a C root. You're changing going to the 4 as your root when you use that 6th chord. G sus. Okay. With that, always remember, utilize major triads, all the different inversions. Practice it in time. Practice all the variations of the chord that we talked about: major, minor, 2, 6, 7, and sustain. And just always practice them in time.